Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face, my card making space, and another real-time video. This is not live. If you're watching this, it's not live. It's pre-recorded, but I did a video like this previously. I forget when, a few weeks ago, where I filmed everything in real time and didn't speed it up, anything like that. And I said I was going to try to do more of them. So here's another attempt. I have a very rough idea. We'll see what happens. You guys will just watch along and we'll just see. I just want to play, make some inky backgrounds, little mixed media. We'll just see. We'll just see what happens. As always, links to everything I use are in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It's what helps pay the bills, keeps the heaters going, and keeps, enables me to continue bringing out content. And yeah, let's see what happens. Because as of filming this, while I'm sitting here, no idea. Okay, so I pulled out some Distress White Heavystock because I plan on using some Distress sprays. I want to do some heat embossing. That's also, like, I get asked a lot, like, why do I choose, what sort of, like, watercolor paper heavyweight? Sometimes it just depends on my mood. Sometimes it's just whatever's convenient. I just grab whatever. This time I went with the white Heavystock because I want to use this background stamp. This came out, goodness, years ago. This is Simon Says Stamps, good reading background stamp, and it's pretty delicate, for lack of a better word. So yeah, I was like, white Heavystock should be good for this because it can handle a lot of like water sprays, etc. But it can also, I want to like stamp and heat emboss this, and like I said, we'll just see what happens. So I'm just gonna cut it in half. And in half again. So I've got a couple of A2 size panels. So these would be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. So don't need the Heavystock anymore. Don't need that anymore. And then to do the heat embossing, I'm just going to take the stamp, put it, I got schmutz on it already. What on earth? Like a weird little fuzzy. There we go. Face up on my work surface. There it is. I am not going to use my anti-static powder on this because I don't want this to even, I don't care if it stamps perfectly. In fact, I'm not even going to press the cardstock into it like smoothly. This is just to create some background texture. So I'm just going to see what I pick up and see what I don't. I genuinely kind of don't care. It's, again, this is just for the background because I'm going to add all kinds of sprays and probably going to use some texture paste, stuff like that. So, yeah. And then this is white embossing powder. So it's going to look very kind of, and then you know what? Why not? Why not? Just mess it up on purpose. Okay. So then I'm just going to do that again with the second background. So just ink it up with just clear embossing ink. Take that and then just sort of press it, but not really. And then set that aside. Cover it with the white embossing powder. This one I got even less coverage and I'm happy with that. This is, yeah, see, like I missed a bunch of spots. That's what I'm going for. I want this to be Yeah. I like it. I like it. It's all part of the like mixed media goodness. So now, melt that with my heat tool, which I should have had plugged in, but I didn't. Plug that in. Thankfully, it didn't affect my little trivet. There we go. That way it's not going to slide off. Okay. And then now we got to heat emboss these. Okay. Looks like I got everything heat embossed. It's a little difficult. Okay. Now I think I got them all heat embossed. It's a little difficult to tell when everything's like skippy and you can kind of, there we go. You know, when I've purposely missed areas, that kind of stuff. So it's like, is that heat embossed? Yeah. Okay. It's good. Again, doesn't need to be perfect. These are going to be messy. Because we're going to get messy, I'm going to bring out the big craft sheet. This is the one that's sized to fit Tim Holtz big glass media mat, like the full-size one. So it's big. And it's got like the weighted corners. I just keep mine like rolled up in one of those containers for the IKEA Scottish pegboard, the little metal container doohickey. I keep this rolled up and stuck in there along with the smaller one, and I just grab whatever's convenient. So that'll just keep things a little more contained. And then I've got some sprays. I pulled out Speckled Egg, Distress Spray Stain, Weathered Wood Oxide Spray, Peacock Feathers Distress Spray Stain, and Crushed Olive Oxide Spray. And I need my spray bottle of water while I'm at it. I wanted to mix the types because the spray stains are transparent, similar to the Distress ink. The oxides have the pigments in them, so they'll sit on top of things a bit more. So I thought by mixing the types, we'll get some fun looks. So because these ones are oxides, the pigments have settled into the bottoms. So I'm just going to shake them up really good before I actually start using them. And these shake up pretty quick and easy. These aren't like the mica stain spray. Ooh, should I use a mica stain spray? We already know the answer to that. Of course I should use a mica stain spray. Let's add Phantom Mist. So, mica stain sprays. These ones, I've got embossing powder, these ones are basically, in a sense, a mix of like Distress Spray Stain, because like the ink in these is tinted, and then they've got mica in them. And the pigment, like the mica, settles to the bottom. I talk about this a lot with all of my sprays, everything. Like I keep, them all on display. I store everything upright. All these sprays, all of them, I store upright. Mainly because the last thing I would ever want is if I've got them flat, if there was a leak. Because they're liquid, if there's even the teeniest little bit of a leak, by the time you find it, it's probably going to be the entire bottle and no fun. So I keep mine upright, but then that means they need to be shaken up. So I've shown this in lives before. The version that I'm going to link to is much smaller, doesn't take up as much space as this, but it is a shaking tool. Usually like things like tattoo artists use stuff like this to mix up their inks, and estheticians with some of their nail polish products, things like that. So yeah, again, the thing to remember using one of these, make sure the lid is on. Make sure the lid is on. All right. And it helps, especially if you have a hard time, like with your hands and trying to shake things. You can use it for these too, for the oxides. I just find that I never really need it for that, but it can work for these too. Just make sure the lid is secure. And then you just strap them into place and then press the button. And then I like to rotate it a bit just so that more areas get shaken around. I don't know. You probably don't need to, but it's just habit. And then, yeah, this one has been sitting for quite a long time. So there's still, you always want to make sure. Okay. Yeah. That all of the, pigment, mica, or whatever is fully dispersed. Because with any spray, doesn't matter what brand, if it's not fully shaken up before you go to use it, that's how you end up clogging your sprayer. There are replacement nozzles and stuff available. I haven't had one clog yet. Or at least nothing like to the point where I need to replace it. Like I've had the nozzle, like the little tube. I've had that happen where it gets a little clogged, but I pull that out. Like this part, and you can pull it out, and I've pulled it out and then just run hot water through it to loosen up the little clog, and it was fine. But yeah, you want to make sure everything's done up, shooken up. And then when I'm working with my little sprays, I'll leave them laying on their sides because then it's just easier and faster, because anything will settle more on the side and it's just a quick, So yeah, when I'm working with them, they're on their sides. When I'm not using them and they're sitting on the wall, they're upright so that I don't make a big mess. Okay. So these ones, it doesn't matter. The spray stains, because there's no pigments in them. So we got the spray stains, got my oxides, and then my mica stain. So and then bottle water. I should grab a bit of paper towel. We're just going to see what happens, you guys. Like I said, I'm just going to play. So let's just spray some water. And let's just commit. So we got speckled egg. Oh, yeah. Yes. Peacock feathers, I'm going to try and be a little lighter-handed with. Maybe dab up a bit of that, because I don't want the background to be super intense. Let's add a bit more water to this. Like I said, we're just gonna play. Dab up. Yeah. I don't want this to be super dark. I think I like that. So we'll do that. And then I'm going to add a bit of the weathered wood oxide spray. Yeah, I'm okay with that. And then the crushed olive, I'm not going to spray it. I'm just going to kind of add a little bit of splotchiness. Yeah, that works. And then, don't want to add the phantom mist now. Yeah. Okay. Now we just need to dry it. And for that, I'm going to use my Ranger heat tool. The only difference between, make sure everything, because I get asked this one a lot, the embossing tool and this, the only difference, heat-wise, they're basically the same. Like the level of heat they put out. This one, the Ranger Heat It tool, you got the wider base, the wider nozzle, and it disperses the heat. It's not blasting the heat. It is dispersing it. It's still hot, very, very hot, but it's not blasting it. It is, and so I use it more for drying. Can you heat emboss with it? You can. It takes longer. I don't like heat embossing with it. But it does work. This, like heat tools like this that are meant for heat embossing, narrower nozzle, way faster force of heat. So, you know, you can direct it right at a specific area and melt embossing powders, things like that. One like this Wagner one, does have 2 speeds. I use speed 2, the full one, to do heat embossing. You can just use speed 1, and it's just slower airflow, still faster than this, to like dry things like that. So do you need both? If you've got this one, you don't really need this one, but I do like this. It just keeps things a little more even. And the nice thing too is this is quieter than the other one. But yeah, they work very similar, and the heat level is about the same. Just different tools for different things. So, because I do get asked a lot, like, why are you using this one? Why don't you use that one? And it's just like, it kind of just depends on my mood. But yeah, it's nice not having the air blow, especially when you're drying like a lot of liquid. And if I was using the other one, it's going to push the liquid around because of the force of the air. So that's also where this one's nice, because like I said, it disperses. So yeah. And they're going to curl because they got very, very wet. As it dries, it'll kind of flatten back out. Yeah. I don't know if you can kind of see some of the mica stain spray. It's subtle, but that shimmer is there. Okay. These are pretty much dry. Dry enough. And I want to add a bunch of white splatter before I add any like texture paste or anything. So I'm going to use my splat box for this, just so I don't make an absolutely huge mess. And I'm just using my permanent white gouache, because this little tube that I've now had for many years, it's almost completely used up. So I put that on my little palette, get some water and my fan brush, and then just swirl it up until all of that gouache is mixed in, and then just add a ton. I want big splotchy bits and fine ones. I want a lot. I want a lot of splatter on these. Because why not? Whatever's left on here, we'll just get it all on there. And then same thing. Gotta let this dry. Okay. So my backgrounds are dry. And I just kind of zhuzhed them as flat as I could get. I've shown in other videos where I'll use like my Mink machine to fuse, laminator works. But I've talked about it in those videos. I would not do that with this because I have this heat embossed image on here. So if I was to run this through my fuse Mink hot laminator to flatten this, it would remelt the embossing powder, and then as it goes through the rollers, it would just smear everything. So because paper has no memory, just kind of flatten it out as best as I can. I'm not too concerned about it. I just need it flat enough to apply like the paste and everything. And yeah, I want this to be dry. I've got my antiseptic powder, and I'm gonna apply this will make sense in a second. I'm gonna apply this because the embossing glaze, I don't want to get it like stuck all over these backgrounds. And this next part, I was very much inspired by Debbie Hughes, as usual. And I will link to her blog post in the description box below the video. I loved what she did. She took the Grand Pixie Snowflake wafer die and used it as a stencil. And I was like, Debbie, you're a genius. You're a genius. Like, using dyes as a stencil is not new, but the way she did it, and then she did the embossing glaze crackle technique, which I'm going to show. I can't remember if I've ever shown it. I have. I think I've only done it like one other time. Tim Holtz has shown it many times, and it's just, I love it. I really love it. But yeah, I was looking at her cards, and I was like, how did she get that snow to look like that? And then I read her blog post, and she said, you know, she basically used it as a stencil, and I was like, oh, you're a genius, Debbie. You're a genius. So I have die cut just some trash cardstock. You know, cardstock that's I'm not going to use for anything else with the wafer die. I'll keep that though. You never know. That might make an appearance on the cards. We'll see. So I'll keep the snowflake. But what I want is this piece. So because I've got two backgrounds, I did do this twice because I kind of have a feeling that it's going to get, I'll deal with that later. It's going to get a little messy. So I've got a die cut. I just got to decide where I want to place it. And I think like kind of offset here in the corner is good. And then I've got some crackle paste and then embossing glazes, distress embossing glaze. And I have them in the colors of the sprays I used. So I've got weathered wood, crushed olive, speckled egg, and peacock feathers. And the thing with embossing glazes these are transparent. So they're not like your typical white, gold, etc. embossing powders. These color can show through them because they are transparent, but they are tinted in the distress colors. So you don't need embossing glazes to do this. You can use any embossing powder for this. Like metallics look amazing. That's next on my list to play around with. I just want to have these open and ready to go before we start making a big old mess here. So there we go. So I've got them open. I need some scrap paper. There we go. To catch some of the excess here. I need a bigger bowl. Okay. And then I've got crackle paste with press and seal stuck to it to keep it from drying out. And then this will work. Okay. So I've got some crackle paste. I've got my makeshift stencil. And I'm just going to apply it. It won't be perfect. And I don't care. I don't care. This is just going to be fun. So we're just going to apply the crackle paste over my die cut stencil. And this is definitely why I did two, because I can already feel like this is going to get messy, and I am okay with that. Okay, I'll come back to that. Let's lift this off. There we go. Not bad. Yeah, you might be able to get a second one, but honestly, the second this sets down, it's kind of reactivated. So this might get a little extra messy, but I'm not too worried about it. So I've got my copy paper, and then all you do is take your embossing glaze or just embossing powder of choice, and you sprinkle it over the paste while the paste is still wet. And then we'll have to let this sit and dry, because most pastes, but especially ones like the Crackle type paste, you do not want to try and heat set it to like get it to dry faster. It'll just, they'll overheat and they'll like kind of bubble, and it just doesn't play nice, honestly. Um, Crackle paste is one of the few that you really do need to have some patience. Let things dry. So I'm just pinching and sprinkling on these different colors. You know, just doing my thing here, just making sure I get the paste completely covered. And then this part, this is the really fun part. I love when Tim does this in his videos, but yeah, hold it over your copy paper, something to like catch, and you just there we go. So I've got like the areas where it kind of mushed out, the spots where the embossing glaze clung to where I didn't want it. I'll deal with that after the paste is fully dry, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, we gotta let this dry, and as it dries, because it's Crackle paste, it's going to crack. So we're gonna set that aside to dry. Now this, you can save if you want. You know, you can put it into a container like Tim Holtz calls it, the party mix. You know, if you want to do that, I'm not gonna save this because it's actually a really, really tiny amount, and I'm fine with what it is. And then we're just going to do it a second time. So we got, there we go. Just going to apply the paste over my stencil. Just like so. There we go. And then put the press and seal back on to seal up that jar so that it does not, or just takes longer, lasts longer. And then this. There we go. And then repeat. So we'll just take our embossing glaze colors and sprinkle them onto this snowflake. And doing it like this, I have noticed that I do kind of get a few little bits of, you know, other colors, and I don't worry about it. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. You could use like a little spoon if it really bothers you. It, considering I have like texture issues with, you know, we've all got our hang-ups. Mine is more like sticky stuff. I don't like sticky touching my hands, but this is fine. Even though I don't like the feeling of embossing powder. Like I don't like it when it's like on me, but this, I don't know, this doesn't bother me. This is fine. We're fine. Okay. This is, I think, a lot. And then same thing. You hold it kind of flat, and then you just kind of dance your fingers just to make sure everything is coated. I did way better with this one. I didn't get the paste like oozing out everywhere. So now we just got to let that dry. And that will vary depending on the type of paste you're using, climate, you know, all the things. And then while it's drying, though, I'm gonna clean up. Get this like this is, but I'm gonna clean up. So I'll be back when everything is dry. Okay, these are mostly dry. Again, you should leave them till they're fully dry, but I'm impatient. They're mostly dry. And you can see how the paste is crackled. There we go. So, paste is crackled, and now we need to melt the embossing powder. So that's what I'm going to do. There we go. Okay. Isn't that fun? So you can see all the crackles, but then all the color from the embossing glaze. And because it's embossing glaze, it's gives that, you know, that shiny look to it. But this is why you need to let the paste completely dry. Because once it's dry, it's fine. But if it's still wet, the paste will overheat and bubble because you're drying the moisture in the paste, and it'll just start like puffing out, which could be a totally cool look. But yeah, you want the paste to be dry before you start melting all of this embossing glaze. It's just fun. It's just fun. So let's do the other one. And same thing. Isn't that neat? It's just fun. Just fun. Okay, now I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with these backgrounds. Okay. I am going to trim these down just a little bit, not a whole lot. This is gonna get interesting. Let's take about 1/4 inch off. Line things up. It's a little bit tricky when you are cutting through texture paste, so always be careful. Yeah. Lop off a bit of that. I'll do that with the second one. Take 1/4 inch off. And sometimes, depending on the paper trimmer you're using, the texture paste, etc., sometimes, and especially crackle paste, normally, more often than not, when you try to cut, like trim things down, the paste will fly right off, like it'll just crackle off. The only reason I think it didn't happen this time is because the embossing glaze, you know, has melted and is keeping things intact. But that is something to be aware of. And then, because I was in the mood for it, let's add a little bit of sewing, which I'm probably going to have to kind of skip through this a bit because you guys can't really see what I'm doing. But yeah, got my little sewing machine. I'm not going to be using red thread, so I need to change my thread. Okay, so I added some sewing. It's not super obvious on camera because I just used white thread, but just kind of went back and forth, mixed between a straight and a zigzag stitch, left the thread sort of hanging because I personally kind of like that when I'm doing this sort of a messier look, to just have the threads hanging off. Again, to each their own with how you want to do the thing. Take off some of the super excess of threads and whatnot, and then I'm just going to take my scissors and rough up the edges of this panel. And this, again, when I get to the spots where the paste is, it's going to chip off those edges. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it, you know? I want it to be roughed up. I want it to just do its thing. And because this is distress Heavystock, it can handle. Like, this is pretty heavyweight. It can handle a lot of water and texture and roughness and, you know, all the things. It works. It works. So, rough up those edges a bit. Repeat onto this one. As always, just be careful if you're using scissors to do this. You can also use the paper distresser tool that Tim Holtz has that I've shown in a bunch of videos. That works great too. Scissors were in my hand, you know? I'm just using whatever's convenient. Okay, figured out what I'm doing. I pulled out the big holiday words stamp set. This came out, I think, for Stamptember. It came out a few months ago. And then there is a coordinating die set. This is a big die set. Just FYI. It's a big die set, so it's on the pricier end because there's dies for every single sentiment, even the little ones. So I pulled it out. I white heat embossed the Merry Christmas sentiment onto black cardstock. I thought that'll pop really nice with these backgrounds. This goes with that. And then I die cut an extra layer that I'm going to adhere behind it just to give it a little more stability, pop it up a bit more. And then on some like pool colored cardstock, this was in my scrap bin, I white heat embossed the Sending Love and Light and then use the coordinating wafer die. I like that they're like ovals. Just gives it a little extra something. I do not want to lose those dies. Set those aside. So I die cut those. And then I'm glad I kept the white snowflake from making my stencil, because I'm going to adhere this to the background once I unclog my glue here. Make sure that's unclogged. So I thought I'll adhere this snowflake. Get my glue press, just kind of like that. We're just gonna stick it down. And then do the same thing with the second one. Okay, got my glue unstuck or unclogged. Adhered the layers together. And then I'm going to adhere this directly to this background with the craft tacky glue. We got our background. Gonna center that. Grab one of my little magnets. I'm gonna hold that in place so I can do the second one. There we go. Stick that on there. Get in place, yes. Okay. Peel off the backing. And then adhere that into place. And now that I'm looking at it, I think I also want to add some sparkle. So if I stick that there, and then move a bunch of things out of the way to reach it. So I want sparkle, but I don't want it to be like super sparkly. If you want it super sparkly, Simon's unicorn glitter, iridescent, beautiful. They have the chunky and the super fine. Love it. I'm going to use rock candy just because, again, it's a little more subtle, you know. And I just want to add it to the snowflake, but I'm not covering the whole thing. If I'd wanted to cover the whole thing, I would have done it separately, or I would have die cut the snowflake from like glitter paper. But I just want to add like just here and there, not a ton. So I'm just going to put some craft tacky glue on here. Kind of basically literally just kind of scribbling it on. Squeeze some in there, because why not? And then over my coffee filter so I don't get glitter absolutely everywhere. I'm just going to pour this over. And then top off the excess. And just kind of press it down into that glue. So it's just going to have that little bit of sparkle, but it's not like super shiny glitter, you know, it's just there. So repeat that on this one. Just scribble on the glue. And again, it'll depend on what you're using. Like I've done this with glossy accents, like pretty much any strong liquid adhesive is going to work. But depending on how much area you want to cover, and again, your climate, everything, you may need to work in like stages, because the glue, if you find your glue is drying too fast, then just do one part at a time. I'm moving kind of quick enough, and I'm not fully like covering everything, that this is fine. But yeah, if I was doing a big, even bigger image or whatever, I would just do, you know, part of it, add the glitter. Go on to the next part, add the glitter. You know, because obviously you don't want the glue to dry before you pour the glitter over it, because then otherwise the glitter's not going to stick to anything. So very generous. Just making sure. Pressing it right in there before I even tap it off, because why not? There we go. Got the thread stuck in there. Yeah. So now we have some glitter on here as well. And then before I do anything else, I am going to pour this back into the container so that I do not have an absolute disaster to deal with. Where's the lid? Put the lid on, close it up, and then we're good to go. So now I just need to let this glue dry. There it is. I want speckled egg on the insides, and I'm going to use the background stamp again on the insides of these cards, just cause. Let me quickly swipe that a bit. Still had a bunch of embossing ink on here, so we'll just wipe that down. So let me get that out of the way. Okay, so card bases. Oh, let me also, I have no space. Everything. Okay, get that out of the way. This out of the way. Card base. These are going to be top folding A2 white note cards. Simon Says Stamps, 120 pound smooth white cardstock. I'll take a piece of Post-it tape and I put it right at the score line. And then my background stamp, I'm going to ink up with the Speckled Egg Distress ink. Take my card base. Press it down. And just like how I was doing on the background, I am not worried about getting this stamped, you know, perfectly anything. Yeah, that's good. I got all threads. Don't care. That'll just give the inside, you know, little extra something something. And then I'll do it again with this card base. So ink up the stamp with the Speckled Egg. And then flip over the card base. Press it into the background. Give it a little with that. There we go. And then I take my Post-it tape and I stick it to the top of my die cut machine because I will keep reusing it like over and over again until that thing is done for, you know? So wipe off the stamp. It's good to go. And then I want to use another sentiment from this set. I don't get it on the acrylic block. And then where's my black? Black ink. So we're going to stamp this with VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. Perfection. You could use a stamp positioner for this, you know, your Misty, stamp wheel, whatever works for you. But yeah, I still love just using my acrylic blocks. Quick and easy. Okay. The glue's not fully dry on the snowflakes, but again, I'm impatient. So I'm putting Simon Says Stamps Big Mama foam tape on the back of these panels because that will give a little bit of lift, but not a ton of bulk because this foam tape is very thin, which I love a lot. So very much, in fact. Plus, it is also going to help adhere this. These panels aren't super warped, but they're a little bit warpy thanks to all the things I did to them. And then peel off the backing. Okay, get this one into place. And then, yes, perfection, perfection. I have some Opal Pawsitively Dazzling gems. And we are going to tuck in some of these, which they always look so boring, like on screen, but in real life, they're very pretty. Especially these Opal ones. I like them. This will stick. Some of these guys. And that, my friends. Oh, these were fun. Considering, like I had said when I started this, I had like a rough idea. I took a couple detours, a lot of which I've when this goes up, I will have deleted some of the randomness because it just, otherwise this would be even insanely more long. But yeah, these are fun. So we've got that crazy background with the distress spray and the oxide. I don't know if I'll be able to show. I might be able to pick up some of the sparkle. Let's see if I can. Kind of, a little bit of it. It's right, you know, kind of in there. And then, of course, the sparkle of the rock candy. It's there. From the mica stain. Which one did I use again? Yeah, the Phantom Mist. It's there. It's subtle. But, yeah, we've got the background, that white heat embossing of that stamp. And then, of course, there we go, the Crackle paste with the embossing glaze. This is a fun one. I need to do this more. Because, again, it's been a year. I forget when the last time I did it. I think it was for one of my live streams. But, yeah. And then that rock candy glitter on this snowflake. I really like this snowflake wafer dye. It's so pretty. I used it in also a live stream. That was the first time I'd used it, and it was really fun. So I'll have that hopefully linked in the end screen. But yeah, and then the inside. I love this sentiment. I love this sentiment side. It is fabulous. These were fun. These were fun. So those are the finished cards. I'll have the photos coming, you know, at the end of the video here. And then, of course, like always, like I said, I'll have links to everything in the description box below the video. And then at the very end, in the end screen, I'll have my holiday playlist. That'll be linked, so you can check that out if you are interested. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!